Under an ancient sky, before Adam's first breath, the earth may have held secrets we were never meant to know. Imagine a time when the world was already shaped, yet cloaked in shadows, its story buried between the first two verses of Genesis. The earth was without form and void, and darkness covered the face of the deep. But was this truly the beginning, or the aftermath of something lost? Scripture, when read slowly and carefully, sometimes feels like it's whispering hidden truths. In the opening lines of Genesis, the narrative docente explained how the earth became formless and void. It simply states that it was. This subtle difference has led some to believe that Genesis is not telling us about the first creation, but about a recreation, a restoration of something that had been destroyed. The gap theory proposes that between men in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void. There is a vast, untold history. Perhaps a creation filled with beauty and life, one that ended in destruction so complete that it left behind nothing but emptiness and ruin. The darkness over the deep may not have been the starting point. It may have been the result of divine judgment. What could have caused such devastation? Many point to the fall of Lucifer. Isaiah describes a being of light, full of beauty, who corrupted his wisdom for the sake of pride. Ezekiel speaks of this being walking among the stones of fire, perfect in all his ways, until iniquity was found in him. Could his rebellion have brought ruin to the world before Adam, leaving the earth in a shattered state, waiting for God's Spirit to move once more over the waters? Ancient voices have hinted at such possibilities. Theologians, through the centuries, though divided, have entertained the idea of multiple creations. The pre-Adamic theory suggests that intelligent beings, perhaps human-like, existed before Adam. Some ancient Jewish traditions speak of worlds created and destroyed before ours. Islamic sources speak of the jinn, a race existing long before humanity, ruling and warring until God replaced them. And scattered through myths from cultures all over the globe are stories of ancient ages, floods, fires, and cataclysms that wiped out entire civilizations. These aren't just legends. Even in the natural world, we find fossils and geological evidence that tell of life and death long before humanity has recorded history. Could these be the remains of that earlier world, a creation that knew the light of God but fell into darkness? If this is true, then Adam's world was not the first. The creation we know was not the birth of the universe, but a renewal. This would change the way we read the opening chapters of Genesis. It would mean that when God said, "Let there be light," he wasn't speaking into absolute nothingness, but into a broken, darkened creation, restoring it to life. The implications are staggering. If God judged a creation once before, it suggests that divine justice has been active far longer than we realize. Adam's fall was not the first rebellion in God's creation. It was part of a larger pattern of free will, defiance, and redemption. It also means that humanity's role may be even more profound. Perhaps we were created not only to know God, but to succeed where a previous creation failed. Church fathers like Augustine argued against the idea of previous human races, holding firmly to the belief that Adam was the very first man, but others were more open. In the 19th century, evangelists like revelatory embraced the gap between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 as a way to reconcile the Bible with the fossil record, seeing those remains as remnants of a pre-Adamic creation. Modern thinkers, such as S. Joshua Swamidas, have even suggested models where pre-Adamite beings could fit within the biblical framework without undermining the story of Adam and Eve. But this is not merely an academic debate. If there was life before Adam, what was its purpose? Did it know God? Did it fall into sin? Was it destroyed because of violence, corruption, or spiritual rebellion? These are not just theoretical questions, they speak to the heart of God's relationship with his creation. Perhaps this is why Genesis leaves us with gaps. The Bible is not a full record of every event in history. It is the story of God's covenant with humanity. And so, what came before may have been intentionally left in mystery, a warning and a reminder that creation itself is fragile, dependent entirely on God's sustaining hand. Imagine walking through a restored world, every sunrise shining on a planet that has already known ruin. Imagine the ground beneath your feet as a graveyard of a forgotten creation. The mountains could be monuments to a world that perished. The seas filled with the memory of a flood, not recorded in our history. And if God began again once, could he do it again? The prophets speak of a future when the heavens will be rolled up, the earth renewed once more. The book of Revelation ends, not with a return to Eden, but with a new heaven and a new earth. Could it be that we are simply another chapter in a story of creation, fall, and renewal, a story that has played out before, and will play out again, until it reaches its final conclusion. This mystery forces us to ask a sobering question. If there was a world before Adam, and it was destroyed, what lessons are we supposed to learn from its fate? Is our time on this earth part of a test, a chance to avoid the mistakes of those who came before? Or is history destined to repeat itself until God's kingdom comes in its fullness? The silence of Scripture on these questions is as loud as its words. In those silences, our curiosity grows, our questions deepen, and our sense of the divine story becomes more awe-inspiring. Whether or not there was a creation before Adam, the message is clear. God is both creator and judge, and his purposes stretch beyond the limits of our understanding. Perhaps one day, when all is revealed, we will see the full scope of God's work, not just in our world, but in every age he has shaped. Until then, the mystery remains, calling us to humility, faith, and a deeper reverence for the one who holds all creation past, present, and future in his hands. And so we are left with that haunting possibility. Genesis may not be the beginning, but the second dawn. If that is true, then our lives are part of something far greater than we can imagine. The question is, will we pass the test this time?